Hi there. In today's video, I'm revisiting a project that I have created in the past, but I haven't made any videos about this because I haven't been able to make it work as well as I wanted. So what this is an attempt to give ChatGPT the ability to browse the internet. Now, I know what you're thinking. There is already this capability built into ChatGPT. But when I started to work on this project, there was no capability like that. And with this one, you can actually see what it is doing as it is browsing the internet. So let me actually demonstrate how this thing works, if it still works. So if I run this index.js script and I say, go to YouTube and find out how many subscribers unconventional coding has. And what it will do is it will actually open Google Chrome and it will go to YouTube. And once the page has loaded, then it will actually type into the search bar unconventional coding and it will hopefully find my channel. So it actually clicked on subscriptions for some reason at first, but hopefully it will then understand that it should type in the search bar. And now we went to history. So this is what I mean, that it doesn't actually... Okay, now we are searching unconventional coding subscribers. And it did actually find my channel here. So let's see if it actually clicks on my channel or if it just reads the information. Okay, so we got the answer from ChatGPT. Unconventional coding currently has 1.38 thousand subscribers. You can check their channel here and it will actually have the link to my channel. So it does kind of work. But to be honest, I cut out 2 attempts before this one that didn't exactly work. So it doesn't work every time. Now let's try something else. What if we run this again and we say, who are the current presidential candidates for the US presidential election? Then it will again open Google Chrome, and what will it do? It will go to uspresidentialelectionnews.com/2020 presidential primary schedule, okay? Now let's see if it understands that this is the old information and it should look at 2024. Okay, and we got an error, so some sort of timeout problem. Okay, I disconnected my VPN, maybe that is the problem, so I will try to do this again. So again, we are now opening, this time Google, and for some reason we navigated to /search/how search works. So what is this doing? So it is not very intelligent. But the thing about this is that when I started to create this project, there was no GPT-4 and there was no function calling. So I wonder what would happen if I converted this into using function calling and the GPT-4 API. So now we are at the privacy policy for some reason.
When you use Google services,
we are
a few different types
playing
of
some video. So I don't know what is happening here. Okay, so it can browse the internet, but it is kind of stupid in how it browses the internet. So let me, in fact, try to change this to GPT-4. So down here, we are just using the GPT 3.5 Turbo. So what if I say GPT-4? Now, I haven't tried this with GPT-4 yet, because as I said, when I created this, there was no GPT-4, at least not the API. So let's try to run this with GPT-4, and I will ask the same thing again. Who are the current presidential candidates for the US presidential election? And we are opening Google Chrome and we are going to fec.gov. Okay, so I guess GPT-4 knows better where to find the information. And actually, it found it on the first try. So we have the current presidential candidates for the US presidential election include Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Ron DeSantis, John Castro, and all these other people. And I believe that this is the correct answer. So let's try that YouTube thing again. So if I say, how many subscribers does unconventional coding have on YouTube? Then let's see if GPT-4 can do this better. So, okay, sometimes it does this. It goes directly to the user page on YouTube, but this is not the correct URL. So that's why I had to add that. Go to YouTube and then find out how many subscribers. So this way it will actually go to the front page of YouTube and then it will search for my channel. So now we're going to the front page, and we are searching for unconventional coding. And then we find the results, and hopefully, actually the subscriber count is here already, so it could just answer me, and it actually did. So it said unconventional coding has 1.38 thousand subscribers. So right off the bat, GPT-4 works actually a lot better. Now, I do think that actually on ChatGPT, the official browsing feature also uses GPT-4, and I can see why. So let's try this. Previously, when I have asked ChatGPT for some code, it has suggested me some deprecated functions, for example in PHP. And one of the deprecated functions is UTF-8 decode. So I wonder if I could ask it, is the UTF-8 decode function deprecated in PHP? Then perhaps it will go to Google or go directly to the PHP documentation. Yes, and then it can see that it has been deprecated as of PHP 8.2. So then we get the answer. Yes, the UTF-8 function is deprecated as of PHP 8.2. So I'm not sure if I can get to any coding in this video because it seems to actually work right now. What if I say download the latest version of PHP? What will it do? It will go to the download page of PHP, and will it actually click on a link here? It doesn't seem to be doing anything. Let me open this on the side and let's see. Okay, so it's clicking some links here. It's going to downloads and it's going to server specific extensions and it's going to help. Okay, so it doesn't really understand that it should click a link there. Okay, so I will stop this. And let me run through the code. What is happening here? How does this work? Now, this code is not the most beautiful code because first of all, it's in JavaScript. And second of all, I don't really know JavaScript that well. And I coded this in a single evening, so I didn't have time to perfect it, okay? So basically, we are just importing some stuff here. We use Puppeteer for controlling the Chrome browser. And Cheerio we use to parse the HTML on the websites. And then readline we use just to get the input from the user. So when I can type into the terminal. Now, I would think that there would be an easier way of doing this, but again, I'm not really a JavaScript developer, so this is probably something that ChatGPT told me how to do. So basically, we are asking for the prompt first with this monster of code. So basically, we are awaiting this asynchronous function, which returns a promise that will resolve after we get the prompt from the readline module. And then we get the OpenAI API key from the environment variable. And then I created this explode function that mimics the PHP explode function, because the split function in JavaScript works differently from explode in that you can't limit the amount of splits, or you can limit it, but in PHP it will take all the rest of the string as the last part, but in JavaScript it will only return the specified number of splits. Now, when I say I wrote this, I didn't actually write it, I copied it from Stack Overflow. And then here we have a function called HTML to JSON. Now, I did write this myself. I'm not sure if I should say that, but I did write it. Now, in fact, this does not return JSON. Originally, I made it so that it returned JSON, but then I found a better way. So basically, this does something similar to the Python beautiful soup package. But instead of beautiful soup, this is like ugly chowder. I might actually rename it to ugly chowder. So basically, it uses the Cheerio library so that we can loop through each of the elements in the HTML in this jQuery style syntax. And then it will take all of these elements and it will ignore the rest of them. And it will take the text and the attributes. And then it will only keep these attributes. Other attributes it will just remove. And then it will just make a string like this that has just the tag name and then the text inside the tag. So it has only the starting tag. Now, the reason why I allow this date time and data test ID is that before I was testing this out by saying, get the latest tweet from Elon Musk. And how the Twitter source code is formatted is that it has this date time attribute in a time tag. And I need this information because otherwise ChatGPT thinks that the last tweet in the source code is the latest tweet, but actually the first tweet is the latest tweet. So by adding this, it will include the date. So then ChatGPT will understand, okay, this one is the latest because it has the latest date. Anyway, this is just so that I don't have to pass all of the source code to ChatGPT. And then we have a send chat message, which is just a basic function that calls the ChatGPT API. So we get the message and the context, which is the previous messages, and then we add the message to the context. Now, I'm not sure what I'm doing here, why am I using the spread operator, but apparently it works. And here we're just sending the request to ChatGPT. And then we are getting the actual message from ChatGPT and returning that. And here we have just a sleep function so that we can add some waiting time into the script for specific parts. And here we are actually launching the Puppeteer browser. So it's a Chrome browser that can be controlled with Puppeteer. And then we are sending this prompt to ChatGPT. Now, this is not actually a system prompt. I'm not sure if they had system prompts at the time when I was creating this, but basically it will say, you have been tasked with crawling the internet based on a task given by the user. You are connected to a Puppeteer script that can navigate the pages and list elements on the page. You shall only answer with a command to execute, nothing else. The commands will be described later. Some of them include get content, run this every time you change the page, list links, list inputs, type text, field number, text type, and go to URL, URL. Answer with only one command at a time. You can answer understood to this message. No quotes are needed in the command arguments. You can also use the command answer user with an answer as a string to give the answer to the user. Use this as the final response. The code URL will be replaced with the current URL in the answer. Always start with the front page of a website. Now, I added this because, as you saw before, it sometimes goes to a page directly, and then it might be the wrong URL. So I tried to make it go to the YouTube front page every time, but it doesn't really work. And then I added this because I ran into a problem with Cloudflare. So a lot of websites are apparently blocking Puppeteer because I'm not sure if it sent like a different user agent or what. And for example, you can't log into Google services using Puppeteer. It just says that your browser is not trusted and you can't do it. So there's some limitations to this. And then I said, remember that the user cannot reply to you. All replies are automatic. Use only the given commands. Your answer shall be based on the content on the website. And this is of course because ChatGPT already has some information, but I don't want it to use its own information. I want it to only use what is on the website. And then we will send that message to ChatGPT and we will get the answer and we will add that message to the context and the response from ChatGPT to the context. And then we will send a message. This is the task. What URL should I go to first? Please answer with go to URL followed by the URL. For example, go to URL and then google.com. And we send that and we add the message and the response to the context. And then we run do next step, into which we pass the page, which is the Puppeteer page, so that we can actually control the page and the context and the response, and I don't know what these other things are. We have the links and the inputs and element, whatever they are. I think element is like the current element that we are working on or something. And here we have just a function to answer the user. So when ChatGPT calls this function, then we just print this out. ChatGPT answered the message and then we exit the program. And then we have a list links function, which takes all the link elements and the button elements and then goes through all of them and takes the text content in them. And if it has text content, then it will be added to the list to be sent to ChatGPT. And then we add the actual href attribute of the link to the text. So ChatGPT knows not only the text of the link, but what URL it points to. And then if there's no href, then we tell that it's a button with the text. And then I guess this just checks if there is no link like this already. So it doesn't add duplicate links. And I make a number for every link so that then ChatGPT can answer with a number of the link to click. And then since we are using Puppeteer, it will actually click the link. So that's why I don't just give the URL and tell ChatGPT to go to the URL, but it will actually click it so that then it can click buttons as well. And we have list inputs, which does the same, but it lists the text inputs and the email inputs and the password inputs and the text area inputs. So you can actually ask it to log in to Facebook or something, and it will use the credentials you provide. Of course, you shouldn't do that because it will then send your credentials to OpenAI, but technically you could do that. So that does the same thing. It just adds the role and the placeholder and the title of the inputs so that ChatGPT can get some more information on what that input is about. And then we have list for GPT, which just takes a list of either inputs or of links and then formats it in a specific format for ChatGPT. And then we have the do next step function. So the next step will be the response from ChatGPT. And then we will parse here the response. So if we have go to URL in the beginning of the response, then we parse the URL from it, and then we will send that command to Puppeteer. So we are going to that URL. And then here we just sleep for 3 seconds. And then we'll say, I'm on this URL now. What should I do next? And please answer with get content to get the text content of the page. List links to list all of the links on the page, or list inputs to list all the input fields on the page. Now, I think I can get rid of this kind of stuff if I use the function calling of ChatGPT. But again, function calling didn't exist at the time when I created this, so I didn't use it. And then we have the same thing for list links, and we have the list inputs, and we have click link. And then finally, we have type text, so that then it can actually type text into a text box on the screen. And what else do we have? Send form, so we can submit a form. And then we have the get content, which uses the ugly chowder to get the HTML content. And finally, we have answer user, which will then print the answer to the user. And if we have an unknown command, then we just quit. And that's how it works. So it's not super complicated. Now let's try to change this to actually use the function calling. So let me first git commit this version. Okay, so let's try to do this. Now I haven't actually done function calling with JavaScript yet, but it should be the same as everything else. So in the body of the message that we send to ChatGPT, we should use, I believe that we don't have to do the 0613 anymore because they have updated the models already on June 27th. So I'll just use GPT-4. Now I might use GPT 3.5 Turbo 16K to get the longer context window. Let's see if this works, and let's change to GPT-4 if this doesn't work. So in addition to the messages, we should add the functions. And this should be actually a list, an array. And then we should define the functions. So we would have a name, and what do we have here? So first thing is go to URL. So let's do that. Go to URL. And description is go to a specific URL. And properties, sorry, this is called parameters, is a type of an object, and the properties of this object are URL, and the type of this is a string, and the description is what? The URL to go to. And I think that is enough information. So let's add another one. So what is the next function? We have list link. Okay, can I copy these all somehow and then paste them over here? Okay, here we have all the functions, and let's do something like this and make them all comments. Okay, so list links. Let's do that. List links, and gets a list of the links on the current page. And again, if you take a look at the documentation on platform.openai.com, then we have the functions parameter here, and it actually has, okay, a required parameter. So before, this was optional, but if you actually try to omit this, it gave an error. So now they have changed it to required. I hoped that they would make it optional so that you don't actually have to set parameters to a function, because here we want to list the links. So I don't want to pass in anything to this. So now I just have to add like a dummy property here. I have to say like, I don't know, I'll set all. Let's say all, and let's call it set this always to true. Because this is a bit annoying. Like, what do I call this? And let's call this a Boolean. So I guess this works, but you really don't need any parameter for this function. Anyway, let's go to the next one, list inputs. And I believe that I have to set the required fields as well. Required URL. Now, perhaps it doesn't matter in this case. And actually, I will not set any required for this one because I don't care if we actually have this all in there. And then we have list inputs. So let's do list inputs. Get a list of all the input fields on the current page. And click link. Okay. So let's do that one. Click link. And this clicks a specific link on the page. And this will get the link ID, and this will be a number. And I will set this to the ID of the link to click. And what else do we have? Type text. Type text will take the ID of the input field and the text. So let's do that. Type text types some text to an input field, and it gets the input ID, the ID of the input to type into, and it also will get the text, which will be the text to type. And this will be a string, of course. And both of these are required. Input ID and text. And then we are going to have send form. Okay. And let's do this here. Send form. Sends a form with the given ID. And here we will have the form ID, which will be a number, the ID of the form to send. Now, I'm not sure if I should use ID here because maybe it understands that this is the CSS ID, but that's not what I mean. But let's see what it does. And we have get content. And let's do that. Get content. Gets the text content on the page, current page. And this will, again, have to have some sort of parameter that we don't actually need. Let's call this current, and let's call it Boolean, and set this to true always. And what else do we have? Here we want to set required to the form ID. And the last one, answer user. Okay, so let's do that. Answer user. Give an answer to the user and end the navigation. Now I might make it so that it actually loops through, so you can ask multiple questions. And it could actually have like a response that it might stop at some page and then ask some questions. Maybe that is better than the current version. But let's try to do just the same thing at first to see if it works better with this. And this will get the string, which will be the answer, which will be the response to the user. And it is required. And I believe that that should be everything. And I have to set the function call to auto. So we will say that the function call is auto. Auto. How does this work? Okay, so I have to do this, I guess. Function call auto. So this just means that it will decide which function it will call automatically. And it also might respond without a function. You can also set this to a specific function. So you can say like name is some function, and you have to say the arguments is which arguments need to be passed into the function. But in this case, we want it to decide what it's going to do. So we are going to use auto. So now the response from this request will not be in this format. It will not be choices 0 message content, although it might be. So now there will be actually, let me see. I think it's in the message there will be a function call, yes. So we will have to do this. I will not return the content, I will only return the message. So then if there's a function call in the message, then we will handle that. Otherwise, we will handle it as just a response. So let's do that. Where are we calling send chat message? Here. So response is that. And what are we going to do then? Okay, so the first message we just omit because this is just the understood message. So I asked it somewhere. You can answer understood to this message. Now we might move this into an actual system message, but let's do this. So here is the actual part where we send the user prompt, which is here. So then when we get this response, then we still pass it into the context as the raw response. But in the do next step function, we need to then handle the next step. Okay, so we have to do this. If next step has own property, function call, then we are going to handle the function. Otherwise, we are going to just console log response from ChatGPT, and then this will be next step content trim. And I guess we could just do process exit 0 here, because we don't really want to go to this part ever. So we will move all of this stuff then inside that if statement. So this will go inside here. So then instead of doing this index of, we are just going to say that the function call, let function call equal next step dot function call. And then we are going to say let function name equal function call dot name. And let arguments equal JSON dot parse function call dot arguments, because the arguments will be a JSON string. So we are going to parse it. And do I have arguments already? Invalid use of arguments. Oh, it's a reserved keyword apparently. So I will say func arguments. So then instead of index of, we can just say that if the function name is that. So let's do all of these. And let's say if function name equals that, then, and let's remove this stuff, then we will do this. And we don't have to do this explode stuff here. We can just say that the URL will be func arguments dot URL. And that's it. And this one should be okay already. So function name equals list links. Then we list the links and we pass them to ChatGPT. Okay. And list inputs is the same. And click link. So we have to get the link ID just from the function func arguments dot link ID. And then we have type text. And again, we will take the element ID from func arguments dot input ID, I believe I called it. And text will be func arguments dot text. And that should work. And send form. Now, actually, I'm not sure what I'm doing here. So input closest form. Okay, so here I'm actually submitting the form that is closest to the current input. So the element is the current element we are on. Okay, so I don't pass anything to this form. It is only that when we type something into a search box, then we can say send form, and then we will send the form that that input element is in. So we have to change the function definition for this. And then we have get content, which should work just fine. And answer user, and the text will be func arguments dot answer. And we can remove this one, and that should be fine. So here I'm replacing /URL with nothing, because I want this to be like a code for the current URL. But sometimes ChatGPT understands that it should add a starting tag and then put the URL between that and this one. So I just remove that. Maybe there's a better way of doing this. And otherwise we say unknown command. Okay, that's fine. And I have sleep 10 seconds here because I want to see what is in the browser at this time, but I should have an await here because this will not work otherwise. And I actually have here a substring. So I take a substring of the message with 5,000 characters. And this is because I was using the 3.5 Turbo, which has a very small context window. But I think I can remove this, or I can like set this to some context length limit. And let's set it up here. Context context length limit is, let's put like 30,000. And what else do we have? Then we have to fix that form function. So send form sends the current form, and this is just, I don't know, current, and let's call it a boolean, and let's say set this to true always. And we of course have to change our pre-prompt now because we are not going to have this type of answer. Now, since I have previously created that GPT autopilot, then I know that ChatGPT is pretty good with these functions. Now, if you haven't seen my videos about GPT autopilot, then I suggest you check them out and you check out my GPT autopilot GitHub repository. So this is an AI agent that can create files on your system. So it can actually create full coding projects from a prompt. And it uses iterative prompting. So you can tell it to do something and it will write the code, and then you can tell it to change it or add something or remove something. And I, in fact, just recently, yesterday, published the 0.4.1 version, which has some cool updates. But anyway, let's get back to this one. So we are saying you have been tasked with crawling the internet. Okay, you shall only answer with function calls. And then I will actually remove all this stuff because I think it will understand this. So I will just say, you have been tasked with crawling the internet based on a task given by the user. And in fact, I will make this a system message. So I will remove this whole thing from here. So we will not send a message, and we will not do this. And I will add it directly into the context. So I will add here a row, system, and content will be this. You have been tasked with crawling the internet based on the given task by the user. You are connected to a Puppeteer script that can navigate the pages and list elements on the page. You shall only answer with function calls. And what URL should I go to next? So I will remove this prompt. I will just say, what URL should I go to first? Or I can say, start by going to a URL. Just this. Maybe I don't even need this, if you understand. And let's go down here. I have more of these prompts that I probably don't need. What should I do next? Please answer with get content. Yeah. I will just say, what should I do next? Here is the list of links on the page. Please answer with list inputs. Okay. If you want to see the list of the inputs instead, or click link followed by the number. Okay, I will just do this, or click link, because I don't have to describe how to use this because it's in the function definition. And here we have, here's the list of inputs on the page. Please answer with list links if you want to see the list of the links instead, or type text. Okay, and I can remove this one, and I click the link. I'm on URL now. What should I do next? Please answer with list links to list. Okay. Okay, that is fine. And I will remove that part. Sorry, but link number is not clickable. Okay. All right, that is fine. And what's next? Okay, I type text into the input box. What should I do next? Please answer with send form or any of the above commands or any of the given function calls. And let's remove this one. And here we have, I sent the form, I'm on this page. What should I do next? Okay, I will remove that. And here is the current page content. Please give the next command. Please give the next command or respond with answer user function if the user's task has been completed. Okay, I believe that should be everything. So let's test this out. So let's try out the YouTube subscriber thing. So I want to find out how many subscribers the YouTube channel Unconventional Coding has. Let's see what it does. We get an error right away. Message is not defined. So I have to say let message, and let's try this again. And it will open browser, and the response is not defined. Why is this? Oh, because before I had this already before. So, all right, third time's the charm. And let's do this. And I am opening a channel directly to some weird channel. This channel does not exist. Okay, so what did we get? We actually got an error. So I don't have currently any error handling from the ChatGPT API. So let's actually see what the error is. So how do I even check it? If choices 0 is what? Undefined. But can I do this? I guess. Then we will do console.log data. Sorry, this should be data choices. And I guess we could add some kind of await, fetch, and catch, and this will be a function, which I guess takes the error, and then we can just console log the error. Perhaps it's something like this. And let's try this again. Now that is funny that it hallucinated a YouTube channel URL. So I think I should add that prompt again, that you should start with the main page. So now we actually go to YouTube, and then we got an error. So we get an error from this, as I expected. So do I use has own property here as well? Or do I say that the length is 0? But if it's undefined, I will actually log it here already, and I will say, so in fact, this is undefined already. So we tried to read undefined. So data choices is undefined. Okay, let's try this again. And we go to YouTube, and we get an error, invalid request error. Is not type string, function call, name go to URL, arguments, that. Wait a minute, what is not type string? Content. Are we setting this whole thing into the message? Okay, perhaps that is what we're doing. So let's not do any of this stuff. So this is the message, and send chat message. That's right. So we will only push the whole response, because the response already has the role assistant and the content. So this we have to generate ourselves, because we have only the string here. So that is the problem. So are we doing the same thing somewhere else? Yes. So this will be the next step, and that should work. So let's try this again. Go to YouTube and search for unconventional coding. And we are on YouTube, and are we going to search for something? It seems like we clicked on the search button, but we are not actually searching anything. Let's see what is happening. Yes, we clicked search button, but are we doing anything else? Okay, now we clicked cancel, and now we go to directly to the search results. So it went directly to the URL with the search results. Okay, and then we responded with, you have successfully reached the search results page for unconventional coding on YouTube. Okay, so it is working, in fact. So let's now do then, who are the current presidential candidates in the US elections for 2024? We are going to google.com, and then we are going to the search results directly again. So this is going backwards now. It is not as good as before. But then we are opening New York Times, and then we are going to get some sort of pop-up here. So let's see if that will affect what we can do. And it will, because we cannot click on anything on the page right now. And this is one of the problems with this control in the browser, is that we only get the source code of the page, but that doesn't tell ChatGPT what is actually on the page. So we should have some sort of API to actually tell ChatGPT, okay, we have an ad on the page, or we have a pop-up on the page now with a link continue. So then it could close this ad. But I have no idea how to do that. If you have any suggestions, then let me know in the comments. But I will close this now. And I will turn my VPN back on so that we actually get some US results. And let's see our system message now. You have been tasked with crawling the internet based on the task given by the user. You are connected to a Puppeteer script that can navigate the pages and list elements on the page. You can also type into search boxes and other input fields and send forms. You can also click links on the page. You shall only answer with function calls. Start by navigating to the front page of a website. Don't go to a URL, how do you say that? Sub-URL directly, as the URL might not work. Now I might say that if you go to a page that doesn't exist, then you should try something else. Let's see what it does now. And let's run it again, and let's say, who are the current presidential candidates in the US elections for 2024? And we are going to Politico, not found, okay? So hopefully it will now, okay, so it ends its navigation if it comes to a page not found error. So I will say, if you encounter a page not found error, try another URL. And let's run this again. And let's paste in the same thing, and let's see. Now we're going to Wikipedia directly. 2024 United States presidential election. That's interesting that it knew this URL. I guess before there has been a URL like this for every year. So now it knew that, okay, there will be one for 2024 as well. But can it find the data on this? We are clicking the link declared candidate, which is actually just like a hash link that would go to the area on the page. So I'm not sure what will happen here. It might actually crash because in my click link function, I think that I am expecting a navigation. Yes, so I will say wait for navigation here. So it will fail here because navigation is not happening when we click on a hash link. Now there is a timeout to this, but I've had problems with like catching the error that comes after that. Or actually, I think there was an error and it just gave up on clicking it. And now it clicks on other declared candidates. But again, it is a hash link, so damn it. So it actually did not read the contents of the page at all. So I will close this and let's add that into the system message. Always read the contents of the page first when going to a new URL or clicking a link. Now I guess I could automatically send the page content to it when it clicks a link, but let's see what we do this time. We again go to Politico, but hopefully now my system message works and it tries another URL. Yes, we are now going to uspresidentialelectionnews.com. And again, that page cannot be found. So what are we doing next? I guess we clicked on who's running for president. And we are loading. And we went to another page. Now again, did we call the get contents function at all? We were submitting a form, typing john@example.com to an input field. Did we subscribe to some newsletter or something? Oh no. Okay, so it feels like I'm going backwards. So now it actually answered click link. So let's change to GPT-4 because GPT-4 seems to be a lot better with the function calls. I've noticed that with my GPT Autopilot project as well. So let's change to GPT-4 and let's do this again. So who are the current presidential candidates in the US election? Google.com. And we are going to search for something, hopefully. US presidential election candidates. Okay. And then what are we going to click? Now, the Google search results page source code is very complicated, but actually it was able to click some link. And let's see if it finds the answer on this page. Okay, we got an error. What happened? Okay, context length exceeded. Okay, so we are still running out of tokens. So what I might do is change the limit, or I could use the larger model. So with GPT-4, you have the bigger model, which is 32K, which is 6 cents per 1,000 tokens. So what is it called? It's called GPT-4 32K. And maybe I could limit this to like 9,000 characters. Now that's not 9,000 tokens, it's characters. And I'm not sure how many characters I am using here. But especially with HTML, there's like sometimes a lot of HTML on a page. So let's try this again. Who are the presidential candidates? And GPT-4 32K does not exist, or you don't have access to it, okay? What is the name of the model? Okay, I think I don't have access to that one. So let's use GPT-4, but with that limit in the length of the message. So 9,000, maybe that's okay. Let's do 6,000. Before I used 5,000, it kind of worked. So let's run this again. And we are opening something, Google. And we are going to search US presidential election candidates. And what are we going to click? We clicked on something. We clicked on news, I guess. What did we do? Yeah, we clicked on news. Okay. And we got an answer. At this point in time, there may be several potential US presidential election candidates for the year 2024. Recently announced candidates include former US Representative Will Hurd, and potential candidates could be former President Donald Trump and current President Joe Biden. However, the official slate of candidates will be determined closer to election. Okay, well, that is, I guess, true. Who is Will Hurd? I have never heard of Will Hurd. Hurd for America. Okay, so I guess he is some person. Okay, so I guess there's still a lot to do to make this actually work and usable. Now, it depends what you are going to use it for. So like one thing you could use this for is like asking, for example, if you're doing some programming project, to check the documentation of some new library, or just like I tried the PHP deprecated functions or something like that. Now I wonder if I could say something like, how does the OpenAI function calling API work? Then presumably it will go to Google or something, or openai.com, and we are actually going to the function calling API page, and the information should be on this page. So let's see what it answers. The OpenAI function calling API works in a unique way. Developers can make their models adopt a behavior of following an instruction to perform a function. This is done in the OpenAI's chat completions API. They've also introduced updates that make the API models more steerable. Additionally, they have increased the context length and reduced the prices. A new model, GPT-4 0613, brings significant improvements on function calling. There's a provision for API users to pin the model version so that they can use a stable model without changes affecting the output. Upgrading models and changes in behavior can be potentially disruptive. Therefore, OpenAI is developing ways to give developers more stability and visibility into how they release and deprecate models. I actually think I missed this part in the documentation. That sounds pretty good, because often they make some changes to the model and then something stops working. So it would be great if you could like say that I want to use this specific version that works. So I have to look into that. But this will be the end of today's video. I will publish this code on my GitHub page, which you can find a link to in the description. So you can try it out yourself if you want. And let me know in the comments what do you think of this video and if you have any ideas on how to improve this. And feel free to submit a pull request on my GitHub repository if you think you can make it better. But now, thanks for watching and I will see you in the next one.